It's great to see everyone here tonight, and welcome to an evening of readings and music from local author Susan Moore Jordan's new award-winning mystery series. Now, the Augusta McKee mysteries are set in the 1960s in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Augusta is a voice teacher in 2 college campuses and also directs stage productions. Sound familiar? Well, the author admits she understands Augusta pretty well, although the similarities end there. Augusta is 5 feet 9, wears 3-inch stilettos, and has a model's figure. Augusta, according to one reviewer, is a no-nonsense voice teacher in spike heels, tough and tender, and smart as all get out. Well, we first meet this lady, who is in midlife, single, and still occasionally performs in opera in the case of the Slain Soprano. She's on her way to teach at one of those colleges, Cliffside College, a women's Catholic school, and she is also in the midst of directing a production of Gilbert and Sullivan's operetta, The Pirates of Penzance, at this college.
Augusta turned her brand new 1963 sapphire blue Chrysler Imperial onto Victory Parkway almost automatically. Traffic on the always busy Parkway, a major artery on the eastern side of Cincinnati, was unusually slow this April morning, and it became a crawl as she neared the entrance to Cliffside College. The reason for the tie-up immediately became apparent. 4 police cars, one a station wagon, and an ambulance were all lined up along the entrance, facing traffic which was being directed into another lane to move past the school's entrance. Augusta had on her left turn indicator and was approached by a police officer. He waited for her to roll down the window. "Sorry, ma'am. No one's permitted on campus at this time." "Nonsense. I'm a faculty member. I had classes of private voice lessons to teach this morning." Augusta stared him down. "I have my orders, ma'am. I'm afraid I can't allow you to turn." She turned off the engine. "I wish to speak to the person who gave you those orders, officer. I'm not moving." He touched the bill of his cap and walked away, leaving Augusta in a position of causing even more of a traffic snarl. The police officer returned quickly, accompanied by a dark-haired man that some might consider ruggedly attractive, dressed in slightly rumpled, plain clothes. Startlingly blue eyes. Over 6 feet, I would guess? 40-ish? "Good morning, ma'am. Gonna have to ask you to move on." "I can't do that, Detective," Augusta said, guessing at his rank. "I'm due in class at 9. "Detective Mitchell, ma'am, no classes today." "Why? What's happened?" "There's been a death in Emory Hall." Augusta felt herself blench. Dear God. "A student?" "Can't give you that information, and I must insist you move on, or you may find yourself under arrest." Augusta opened the car door and stepped out to face the detective. She was nearly as tall as she was, and she knew how intimidating she would be when she chose. "I must insist you tell me what happened here." She fished in her purse for identification. "The police chief is a personal friend. Call him and tell him Professor Augusta McKee requests admission to the Cliffside College campus immediately." "Ma'am, I'm not calling anyone. You can call whoever you choose, including the Pope. I'm not allowing you on campus." He folded his arms across his chest and raised an eyebrow. "Asshole," but she never would have spoken the word out loud. "We'll see about that." "Very well, Detective. May I have your name?" Augusta opened her car door and slid behind the wheel as she spoke. "Malcolm Mitchell. May I have yours?" "Professor Augusta McKee, I just told you. Apparently you weren't paying attention." She slammed the door. "Be assured, the police chief will hear about this." Icicles dripping from every word. "Oh, I have no doubt about it." He gave her an insolent grin as he drove away. "I Undeterred, Augusta drove beyond campus, found a place to turn around, and headed back up Victory Parkway. Reaching People's Corner, she made her way through a quiet residential back street to a little dead-end cul-de-sac where she parked. She exited her car and started down a path. As she suspected, there were no police around. Not many people were aware of this means of access to the Cliffside campus. She stepped carefully in her Roger Vivier stilettos along the partially cleared wooded path. Surprisingly, there had been very little rain over the past weeks. About a half mile beyond the dead-end street, she came to a 4-foot stone wall with clearly visible foot and hand holds. Augusta was hardly dressed for scaling a wall, but the coral dress she had on, a favorite, had a full enough skirt for her to pull the front and back together between her legs and tie it loosely but securely. She considered removing the ivory blazer, another favorite, but decided it wasn't necessary. She slipped off her shoes and tossed them over the wall. Stepping carefully as to not snag her stockings, she easily climbed up and over the wall, untied her skirt, reclaimed her shoes, and walked the remaining half mile. This put her behind the greenhouse, only a few hundred yards from Emory Hall. Pulling herself up to her full 5 feet 9 inches, plus the additional 3 the stilettos provided, she sailed past the police stationed around the greenhouse, breathing a small sigh of relief when none of them challenged her presence. Detective Mitchell strode toward her, obviously dumbfounded. "I guess there's no point in my asking how you got here," he remarked, shaking his head. Augusta flashed the detective her most charming smile. "Now that I'm here, I appeal to you not to throw me off campus. I assure you I can be of help to you, but I would like to know exactly what happened here that requires your presence." Against his better judgment, he relented. "Linnea Murphy was found dead this morning at the bottom of a flight of stairs in a residence hall." Augusta flinched. "I see. There seem to have been no witnesses. Accident?" He paused briefly before he replied. "The cause of her death remains unknown at the present time." "You're a homicide detective, then. Foul play hasn't been ruled out?" She caught the slight smirk and was certain that he viewed her as some kind of an amateur sleuth in the Miss Marple mold. "Don't worry, detective. I won't interfere with your duties."
Well, despite assurances to the contrary, Augusta gets very much involved. Eventually, information she uncovers helps point to the likely killer, and when she receives confirmation of her suspicions, she has a very normal reaction. She's scared out of her wits. By now, she and Detective Mitchell have developed a strong friendship, and when she calls him, he appears at her house, and she shares what she has learned. "Have you had anything to eat?" Malcolm and Augusta were seated on the comfortable sofa in her living room. "I'm really not hungry. I took about 3 bites of a piece of toast earlier." The bourbon Malcolm had poured her helped her nerves, but even more helpful was the fact that he was sitting next to her. "You should eat something." "What about you? You've been fighting bad guys all day, and on your day off." He shrugged. "Comes with the territory, but I could do with some food." Augusta suddenly found herself ravenously hungry. "You know what I want? Skyline chili." Malcolm laughed. "I guess you're feeling better if you want to tackle that." "Oh, much. I think I let my imagination get the better of me." She pressed her lips together. "It won't happen again, I promise you." "We'll take your car if it's okay." He stood up and pulled her to her feet. Skyline Chili was a popular chain of restaurants all over the city. They drove to the one on East McMillan and Walnut Hills, and Augusta ordered the 3-way. The Greek chili, over spaghetti, topped with a mound of shredded cheese. Malcolm ordered the same. 3-way, Detective Mitchell? I would have figured you for a 5-way man."
Five-way chili is the same the way as Augusta's, but it had the addition of beans and onions. Depends on my mood, he grinned. They ate in silence for a few minutes, then Augusta wiped her mouth. You know, I'm not scared anymore. Now, I'm good and mad. Malcolm leaned back in his chair, eyebrow lifted, but Augusta was just getting started. He's a piece of work, don't you think? And no, who knows what else he may have done, and how many other aliases he may have. Augusta, you're talking like a cop. And about that, the cop thing. I owe you a huge apology. I treated you dreadfully when I first met you, and I'm so sorry I behaved badly. You were doing your job. And it's about the toughest job a man can have. Apology accepted. I appreciate it. I understood where you were coming from, though. You live in a pretty rarefied atmosphere. He smiled at her as he took a healthy bite of his chili. Yes, I've come to realize that. You, on the other hand, have to deal with the sordid underbelly of society on a daily basis. I have heard that expression. How on earth do you do it? She added more oyster crackers to her three-way. And why do you do it? Now, why did you become a police officer? You're serious, aren't you? He looked at her thoughtfully as she nodded. Well, I wanted to be a cop since I was 11. My dad had a good friend who was shot to death by a criminal who wanted his car. He killed a man for a car. Malcolm shook his head. The Cincinnati Police Department tracked down the hoodlum and arrested him. My dad took me to police headquarters so we could thank the detectives who brought the man who killed his friend to justice. When I met those two officers, I knew that's what I wanted to do. That's quite a story. There are a lot of bad people in this world, Augusta. Most people can't protect themselves from the underbelly of society, as you put it. But if you make the commitment, if you put on the badge and take the oath, you can fight them. You can make a difference. I want to make a difference. She gazed at him. And I can't tell you how much I admire you for making that choice. His glance made her feel warm all over. Thank you. But to be a homicide detective, I have a feeling that was your goal all along. Was it because of the two men you met the day your father took you to police headquarters? It sure was. They were larger than life. Something about them, the confidence they exuded. He paused for a moment, thinking. I want to say this right. Being a homicide detective has to be one of the most satisfying occupations on God's earth. Mentally, it's challenging. It's like playing a different puzzle every day, except the outcome is very important to another human being. Actually, if you're successful, two human beings. He sat back. No. If you're successful, many human beings. Considering what happens if you don't catch the perpetrator, he just keeps perpetrating. Augusta hung on Malcolm's every word. And this made her laugh, but he grew serious again. Homicide. When you're doing a homicide investigation, you see the person who's dead. In this case, a young girl cut down so young. And you have a physical reminder of what's going to happen if you don't catch who did it. Augusta, when you catch him, and we will catch him, it's hard to explain how it makes you feel. You know what endorphins are? She nodded. The endorphins scatter in your brain like fireworks. It may be the best thing you ever feel. Augusta started to ask, better than sex? She decided against it. I get the picture. What you do, and I'm told you're the best. He gave her a slight smile. I try.